Nowadays, an insignificant water channel is suddenly posing a threat to the entire global economy. At present, giant cargo vessels loaded with oil, food products, electronics, vehicles, and raw materials are caught in heavy traffic jams covering the entire ocean close to the Panama Canal. Some vessels wait for weeks before passing through it, while others spend millions to jump the queue. What seems to be an absurdity becomes a reality. There is not enough water. For more than 100 years, the Panama Canal has been considered as one of the most vital trade routes. Connecting the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, this water passage allows vessels to save thousands of miles and billions of dollars. Over 5% of all global trade flows pass through this route annually. However, climate change, droughts, and the increasing demand in the global market put the Panama Canal under the stress. Nowadays, this problem does not belong only to Panama. The consequences spread throughout the world. The cost of shipping becomes higher, delivery delays become more frequent. Once again, supply chains break. Supermarkets and factories begin to feel the pressure of the situation. It is the story of how the drought became a trade emergency worldwide. In order to comprehend why this crisis causes fear among economists, it is necessary to understand the significance of the Panama Canal for the international community. Before its existence, ships transporting goods from one ocean to another had no choice but to sail all the way to the end of South America, adding thousands of miles of route, additional risks, and several weeks of delays. However, when the Panama Canal was opened in 1914, everything has dramatically changed for the better. It became one of the greatest engineering feats of humanity that allowed ships to shorten their routes by hundreds of miles, saving weeks of sailing and providing a huge boost to international trade and economic growth. Today, more than 14,000 ships pass through the canal annually. It carries oil from Texas, cars from Asia, foodstuffs from Latin American countries, and consumer goods bound to North America and Europe. Many of the largest economies in the world depend on this channel daily. For container shipping, the Panama Canal is extremely important because any hour saved means savings on fuel and additional profits. This is why even minor disruptions can cause serious problems for international trade. However, today, for the first time in decades, this system begins to show its vulnerabilities. The scary thing about this crisis is that the Panama Canal does not operate using seawater but uses fresh water. The operation of the canal involves the use of huge amounts of freshwater in the locks to raise and lower ships passing through the canal. The freshwater used in the canal locks comes from the massive artificial Gatun Lake. However, there have been severe reductions in rainfall in recent years in Panama. This was caused by climatic changes and the strong El Niño effect causing drought in the region. This resulted in such low water levels that the authorities managing the canal had no choice but to limit the number of ships sailing through the canal daily. This meant that what was initially an efficient global trade transit system suddenly became a choke point. Hundreds of ships began to accumulate outside the Panama Canal. There were long delays. Ships began panicking. Some ships took more than 2 weeks just to sail through the canal. Some ships even decided to alter their course, sailing around South America at great expense. Fuel costs increased and shipping schedules were ruined. But the frightening thing is that the canal cannot operate without rain. One of the world's most important global trade channels is now susceptible to climate. This means something for the future of globalization. As the delays became worse, the shipping companies of the world found themselves in survival mode. The Panama Canal acts like a heartbeat for international business. When it stops, everything else starts malfunctioning. Shipping companies found themselves making very tough decisions: wait in line for days or weeks, or divert their ships all the way around Cape Horn, which is at the tip of South America. They had to pay millions in auctions just to get priority use of the canal. The effects spread quickly. Factories were put on hold because of lack of raw material. Retailers feared running out of stock. Oil was delayed. Agriculture shipments were delayed. Consumers were silently paying more. The crisis also revealed a scary reality about globalization, that our economy relies on a few choke points to work properly. Just one drought in one canal was enough to throw off global supply chains. Economists began to warn about inflation risks coming back. Insurance costs went up. Shipping rates went up again despite years of being unpredictable due to pandemics and wars. But while most people do not think about cargo ships, they cannot live without them. That is why the Panama Canal crisis became much more than a local issue. In light of the Panama Canal crisis, governments and businesses need to reevaluate the future of international trade. Globalization relied on efficiency, speed, and dependable shipping for decades. However, the current situation reveals how fragile the system actually is. As a result, countries are seeking alternative options. Companies are relocating factories near customers, while others are developing new shipping corridors, railroads, and routes through the Arctic, which may become accessible because of melting polar ice. Furthermore, the United States and China have been paying close attention. Both nations rely on the strategic importance of the Panama Canal. Thus, any disruption could affect global geopolitics, international trade domination, and logistics significantly. Scientists argue that this may only be a beginning, since climate change will continue increasing droughts, floods, and other kinds of extreme weather events in the coming years. As a result, ports, railway lines, canals, and logistics will be disrupted again and again. What is the scary truth? Modern civilization relies on invisible systems which people do not even realize exist until something goes wrong. Currently, one of the most crucial systems on Earth is under threat. The Panama Canal crisis may not only affect international shipping. This crisis could be the start of a new chapter in globalization. At the height of the crisis, the wait list outside the Panama Canal was beginning to resemble not so much a maritime route, but rather a floating traffic nightmare. Massive cargo ships could be seen on the oceanic horizon carrying fuel, wheat, electronics, and cars. Each day that those ships stayed blocked resulted in significant financial losses to businesses. Some shipping companies grew so frustrated that they found themselves in bidding wars just to pass through the canal faster. There have been reports of companies paying millions of dollars at auctions to get priority passage through the canal. This is how much time was worth. But that wasn't all. Shipping delays had far-reaching consequences for the entire chain of global supply and demand. Factories were unable to obtain their parts. Retailers faced potential stock shortages during holidays. Oil and gas deliveries slowed down. Food exports could go bad. Every delay led to even greater economic damage. In addition, shipping companies spent additional fuel taking a longer route around South America. Longer travel time increased CO2 emissions, insurance costs, and tired crews spending additional weeks on board. The canal was built to save time and money. However, the very shortcut that was driving globalization became one of the world's most expensive choke points. Very few individuals have ever visited the Panama Canal. However, millions of people across the globe may already feel the consequences of the canal's crisis without even realizing it. Almost anything in today's world is shipped using international shipping routes. Smartphones, clothes, groceries, vehicles, electronics, furniture, fuel, and much more depend on rapid delivery of products around the globe. Hence, the disruption in one of the major trade routes leads to increased costs everywhere. That is what many economists are worried about. The delay of shipments means increased costs of transportation. In turn, increased costs of transportation result in higher costs for businesses. Ultimately, businesses may decide to pass the extra expenses to customers. Thus, the crisis of the Panama Canal might affect grocery prices, fuel prices, shipping prices, and even availability of some products. During past crises in global trade, prices for shipping containers rose hundreds of percent. Similar problems might appear again. This issue demonstrates how much the world has become interconnected. The drought in Central America may now have an impact on factories in Asia, consumers in Europe, and retailers in the United States. Indeed, globalization provided access to cheaper and faster products for decades. At the same time, it led to complete dependence on systems that work flawlessly. Currently, however, all those systems face serious challenges. The Panama Canal crisis is not just about delayed cargo ships. It is an alert that the fragile systems that have held together modern civilization for centuries might be about to break down. For years, the global economy was built as a highly efficient machine. Products moved between countries in a matter of days. Supply chains were optimized to perfection. Customers were offered endless choice at unbeatable prices. But all of that was based on one thing: stability. The stability is gone. Droughts, floods, and other consequences of climate change threaten the global infrastructure from all sides. Wars disrupt the flow of goods along the international routes. Political tensions transform global supply chains, and strategic bottlenecks like the Panama Canal are facing increasing pressures. The worst thing is that we might have only seen the tip of the iceberg. As the global economy becomes increasingly complicated, the consequences of disruptions grow ever bigger. Today, it takes only one disruption to shake the entire world economy in a matter of days. But most of us do not realize that we depend on these systems until they collapse. This is why the Panama Canal crisis is so significant. It showed us how deeply interconnected and fragile the global system of production and trade really is. When even a small channel starts running out of water, the whole global economy starts holding its breath.